All right, welcome in everyone to this episode of the Chiefs Zone Podcast. Farzin Vasugian here with you after the Chiefs lose another preseason game. They're 0-2. It's a bad start in the preseason. Yeah, it is the preseason. But nonetheless, we'll still discuss this game as we did the same way last week. Some interesting things to get into in this one. The starting offense certainly looked better this week than last week. And I think with Hollywood Brown's injury, you certainly needed to see something from the offense to prove that this unit can move forward for however many games Hollywood Brown is expected to be out for. Likely going to be one game, probably two, maybe three at the most. So you wanted to see what this starting offense would look like, and they looked really good the first couple of drives the Chiefs were out there. So the Chiefs offense, we'll talk about that more and more later on. The second, third, fourth unit guys, man, just not very good. Kind of a rough go out there for some of those guys. And the Chiefs, of course, near the end looked like they had an opportunity to win the football game. But the issues on offensive play calling was pretty bad at the end there. I don't know what you're doing with Ian Book, having him throw the football twice. One of them just looked like he gave up on the play quickly. So you're essentially gifting the Lions timeouts there when you could have had them just use both timeouts, and then the 2-minute warning could have served as their last timeout. But no, the Chiefs had other plans. So kind of an interesting play call towards the end there. But hey, I mean, it's the preseason. It's not anything to get all crazy about. I do want to hear from you guys, and let me go ahead and put the call-in link below right here on Facebook and on YouTube. Go ahead, call into the podcast. Let me know how you guys are feeling, what you want to talk about. If you feel good, you feel bad. Some of the guys trying to make the team, maybe you want to talk about some of those guys. All of that, fair game tonight. So call into the podcast. Click on the link right there, and let's chat it up. A lot of things to get into here. Let's start with the starting unit. Obviously, the thing that's going to be talked about the most in this game, despite the Chiefs losing this one, is the Patrick Mahomes behind the back pass, which pretty cool, great. Obviously going to be seen on the highlight reel for a few days. But as far as the stuff we needed to see, and I said this before the game, we definitely needed to see something from the starting unit, because there's a chance they're going to miss Hollywood Brown for a couple of games this year. We don't know exactly how many to start off the season, but it's going to be at least one, maybe two or three more. We don't know exactly, but we needed to see something from Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice, and we did in this football game. Rashee Rice went out there, connected with Patrick Mahomes 4 times, 35 yards, was targeted a 5th time, but Rice unable to pull in the pass there, lost track of the football when it was coming in from behind. But, you know, at the end of the day, you got to make that catch. Yeah, I know it got in the way with the sun and everything. Got to make that catch. Trent Green even noted that. He had that nice 39-yard catch from Patrick Mahomes on a 3rd and 11 play, and I think that is a very important thing to note right there. The touchdown pass came from Carson Wentz, which, you know, I think Mahomes still hits him on that one too, because if you looked at that play right there, Carson Wentz, or I'm sorry, Xavier Worthy does not slow down one bit, knows exactly where he's going. He's lined up as a slot receiver on the left side of where the football is, and just goes, you know, diagonally straight to the corner of the end zone. And Carson Wentz threw it perfectly right there. And you know, Patrick Mahomes will do the exact same thing in that situation there. His breakaway speed, it's insane. And Detroit had issues trying to contain him in this football game here. And I was kind of surprised, like the amount of times Detroit was trying to defend Xavier Worthy one-on-one. I don't really know if that's a smart idea, but that's what they tried to do in this game. So I'm excited to see what I think those 4 guys right there, Worthy, Rice, Kelsey, and Mahomes, those are going to be your 4 main guys going into that week 1 game. And then hopefully Hollywood Brown comes back, makes a full recovery as soon as possible. Isaiah Pacheco going to be a very important part of your offense. I think this is going to be his best year as a Chiefs player in his young NFL career so far. So I'm excited to see what that unit's going to do. They showed the 4 of them Rice, Worthy, Mahomes, and Kelsey just talking with about 4 minutes left on the sidelines there. So I kind of like seeing that shot right there. I'm excited. This is going to be the last time we probably see those 4 guys in uniform. I doubt we see Mahomes, Kelsey, Pacheco, Rice, maybe Worthy in next Thursday's game. But it's very likely those guys, the next time we see them is going to be on September the 5th. As far as some of the other plays here, and I'll get to a lot of you guys' comments here because I know a lot of people have a lot to say about some of the play after the Chiefs starting unit because it wasn't very pretty here. But again, keep in mind these are guys you're not going to see much of. I thought Deneric Prince looked really good, running for almost 7 yards per carry. In fact, I think his who was 75. I don't have the roster in front of me, but let me just quickly look. The offensive tackle, Ethan somebody, what was his name, went out there and threw a really nice block, allowing him to go for 39 yards. It's not Godric. The Ethan Driscoll, the undrafted rookie. Yeah, he was he's listed as a right tackle, but he was lined up on the left side, went out there and threw that nice block for Deneric Prince. I really liked him in this game. I thought his pass blocking was really good for the time that we saw him. So I'm excited to see what he's going to do to try to make this 53-man roster, because that's going to be something that is going to get pretty interesting coming down to the wire. Someone that's probably going to play a lot in next week's game as well to try to prove himself and make that right 53. Remember that? Who was it? Todd Haley and Scott Pioli, the right 53. And that's just one that stuck with me for a long time. So he's going to have probably another opportunity to showcase what he can do in next week's game. As far as Carson Steele, had a more quiet game today. 3 catches for 8 yards. He had a couple of catches too that went from behind the line of scrimmage. So not the most exciting day for Carson Steele, though he did have a kick return in this game. Actually, he recovered the fumble right before the Xavier Worthy touchdown catch. He was responsible for getting that there. And then on the kick return that he had for the Chiefs, went 36 yards. Sky Moore actually had a big kick return in this game. Had one that went for 43 yards. And then on punt returns, Nico Remigio had a nice 42-yard return right in front of his own end zone there. So nice to see him to go out there and get a big return there. I'll just say this one right off the bat, as far as negatives, Ian Book. I mean, I don't really know. Every team has, with the Chiefs at least, you have 4 QBs every year. I don't know what the purpose of Ian Book is. Unless Oladokin just shits the bed in the last game and Book just goes out there and balls out in that last preseason game, I don't think Ian Book's making the team. And I think Oladokin is once again going to be your practice squad quarterback. But I'll get this out of the way right now, because I think the biggest takeaway from me, and I know the Chiefs want to give Kadarius Toney another opportunity, but did you not see what he did today? He committed 2 penalties in 1 snap. That is not the 2-for-1 special you want, folks. I mean, that is not at all the 2-for-1 special. That's a 2-for-1 special for the opposing team. But they can only accept one of those penalties. Unless one of those happen after the play, during the play, and after the play. But I'm just going to say it right now. Like, Kadarius Toney was a guy who was a liability for your football team last year. Ball going right off of his hands and going straight into the defender's hands. I mean, you cannot let that happen. And I don't like to pinpoint a win or a loss on just one player or one play, because I don't think that's how football or sports in general work. There are many variables and factors that come into wins and losses, but you look at the Detroit game where the ball went right off his hands for a pick six, and then, dropping passes late in the game when you could have been in field goal range late in the game certainly does not help your cause. The offside call against Buffalo, again, I'm not one to pinpoint wins and losses on one play or one player, but man, I mean, if you don't make that mistake right there, you win that football game. And he had his own touchdown taken away from him on a sweet lateral from Travis Kelce there. And in today's game, you have the, again, What are they? What we're calling it a 2-for-1 special for the defense, where you commit 2 penalties right there on the same play. Man, I'm just gonna say this. I know it's a preseason, but my biggest fear right there is you do that in a regular season game. That's when you're going to get fireworks, and not the good kind. Listen, Dan Orlovsky was on a podcast recently and talked about how the reason the Chiefs won the Super Bowl was because, and I 100% agree with him on this, and I even said this during the season last year, was because Patrick Mahomes never lashed out at his team on the sidelines when things were not going right. We've seen this many times listen, I think a great example would be in the Todd Haley era. You saw Todd Haley, go off on Brody Croyle and Matt Castle and Bobby Wade, and you even had assistant coaches who would go off and just bark at each other on the sidelines. Like, that was not a healthy team at all. And also rumors about Todd Haley and the whole Charlie Weiss thing, taking play calling away from him. And not to go into that too much, my point is that team, you could not call it a team. They were not one cohesive unit. You had all these divisions because no one wanted to play for the coach. And that did not want to make these guys want to play for one another. When the Chiefs lost to the Broncos last year and they were getting ready for that Germany game, I mean, they came into the building all smiles. They would come into the press conference room, the media, wherever, in the locker room. I mean, it was all smiles. It was not a group that felt sorry for themselves, embarrassing loss the day before, 2 days before, whatever. I mean, you could hardly tell that they had a loss, because that's what a football team does. That's what happens when you do have a cohesive unit. Guys who are getting along on and off the field. The whole thing with Kadarius Toney, the reason I'm bringing this up like this, man, you commit another fumble like that, and I'm not talking about a literal fumble. I'm talking, figuratively, the way it could come down to a literal fumble next from him. Because here's the thing with Toney. I mean, he's doing things that you just don't see often. An offside call on offense, which took away a touchdown from you. You have 2 penalties in 1. Okay, it's not a real game, but if this happens in a real game, that's when shit hits the floor, or shit hits the fan, excuse me. This is where, you do not want, I mean, if you're the Chiefs, I think you got to have an honest conversation. This guy's got talent. Is he worth keeping around, though? I mean, the injuries, like, no one ever wants to get hurt. Any conditioning in the world can't prepare you for certain kinds of situations. And we had that conversation with Brody Croyle recently on the podcast. But committing penalties and just not being able to hold on to the football, that is where that's what irks coaches. Coaches can handle losing, but coaches cannot handle teams not being able to do the fundamentals. That's what will drive coaches nuts. That is absolutely a deal breaker to try to make this 53-man roster. I know there's been all this talk about Kadarius Toney getting a second chance, but today's preseason game, I don't know if it looks good. Now, maybe he looks good in the next few days in practice, and I don't know, what Kadarius Toney's activity is going to be in the last preseason game. Considering he was out there in the second half, I think this is someone that has to play a lot of the next preseason game, because that's one where you're barely going to see your starters. Maybe you don't even see them at all, because that's generally how the last preseason game goes. So that was my biggest negative from this football game is Kadarius Toney. I don't know, realistically, what are you hoping for? Yeah, he's got that talent, and maybe the fear is he goes somewhere else and is able to show off that kind of talent. But how many screw ups is he going to have along the way, or even after making a big play? Because last year he didn't make a lot of big plays. And I know Andy Reid, coming off that bye week in the press conference before the Eagles game, 6 days before the Monday Night Football Eagles game, Andy Reid reminded the media in a press conference saying, look, this guy had knee surgery really early on in training camp. Okay, but how did that how does the knee injury, the surgery, how does that impact your hands and dropping passes consistently? How does that impact, committing a penalty at the worst moment possible? Because at some point you have to just understand maybe this guy is not someone that you want to keep around on your 53-man roster. Again, I don't think one day should ever be one that just represents a whole body of work. But, last year was just not a very good year for Kadarius Toney. Yeah, he was a hero in the Super Bowl, in Super Bowl 57. You have to specify because the Chiefs go to a lot of Super Bowls nowadays. But I don't know. That's just one that I struggle with because we're not seeing a lot of progress from a guy like him. And I think this is a preseason that is very important for Kadarius Toney. If you guys want to call into the podcast, I'd love to hear from you guys. I'll read comments shortly. I see there's a lot of them, and there's a lot to get into today. So we'll get right into it. But, man, I'm telling you right now, I like what I saw from the starting unit. No, there were no touchdowns from the starting unit last week or this week, but I saw them move the football, and I saw what I needed to see. Okay. And I trust that in the regular season, those field goals will turn to touchdowns. I know last year we saw a lot of field goals, especially down the stretch, late in those regular season games and those that early playoff game against the Dolphins. But I trust that it'll be a lot better this year for sure. I mean, how does it not? You're not going to. Somebody was responding, I think, on Facebook. Their concern was that the Chiefs were showing too much on offense. Look, your starting unit, I mean, they're only out there for a little bit, so it's impossible to reveal your entire playbook in one preseason when the starters aren't even playing that long. Even if hypothetically, let's just say the starters did play a whole game. I mean, unless you're running a play every second of the game, which again is impossible to do. It's not realistic. It's still impossible to reveal your entire offense or your playbook in one game. I mean, these NFL playbooks are thick, especially when your head coach is Andy Reid and has been around the sport a very long time. There are a lot of plays in that playbook, and not all of them end up getting called or executed in a regular season, or as long as the Chiefs have going into the postseason, of course. Jim's asking, I hope Remigio is our kick returner this year, and do you think Toney will be cut? I don't know if Toney's going to be cut. I mean, he's really on the border. I think that's where the Chiefs do stand on with him. He's really on the border. As far as Remigio, I did like what I saw from him in this game compared to last week. Last week was not a very good day for Nico Remigio in that preseason game in Jacksonville. Definitely looked a lot better in today's game. So I like what I saw from Remigio. And it's kind of, as advertised too with Remigio, with what we've heard from all the coaches all offseason long. This is a guy that can thrive on special teams. So I'll bet that he probably makes the team. And I think he certainly is helping his case after today's game for sure. Bud says Ian Book easy cut. Yeah, he did not. And listen, I don't want to blame it all on Ian Book. The play calling right before the 2-minute warning on the last possession that the Chiefs had, that did not help. That did not help. Oh, 100% going down the field this year. That pass to Xavier Worthy, that is what you missed last year. You had a little bit of that in 2022, the first year without Tyreek Hill, but that you're going to get more of, especially when Hollywood comes back. So I'm very, very excited to see. I'm excited to see what that offense is going to look like with Worthy, Hollywood, Rice, those three receivers. Oh, by the way, Travis Kelce, your tight end goat, also going to be on the field, and Isaiah Pacheco. So I'm excited to see all of that. Behind the back pass to Kelce was magnificent. Yeah, and I love the indirect back and forth barking between Mahomes and Kelce as to who did what. Kelce just roasted Mahomes with the voice impersonation and the play call claim. That was pretty funny, but not really a big part of today's discussion. Although I'm sure the play will be replayed a lot this week. Worthy was able to catch it deep. Yeah. And gotta be careful because he did have that fumble, but it's interesting to me. And again, it's only one play. Hell, it was only one quarter. You didn't see the Chiefs starting unit out there for too long. But Xavier Worthy went out there and got hit around a little bit. Oh, I heard all offseason from people saying that, it's going to one hit and Xavier Worthy's going to get hurt and he can't play. Well, he got hit around today just fine. And he was able to get back up and go back to the huddle and go play on the next snap. So no issues from him whatsoever in this game in terms of, taking hits in this football game. And listen, I'm not here to compare college football to the NFL. It's a completely different animal. But the Big 12 is no pushover conference. I mean, you especially defensively, I feel like the defenses in the Big 12 have gotten a little bit better lately. There's some physicality there, and he definitely just go look up all of Texas highlights. It's on YouTube or other places for you to watch. I mean, he took some hits, some big hits in college. So it's not like this guy's never taken a hit before. I always think that's interesting. It's like when someone goes from a smaller promotion to the UFC. Oh, well, in the UFC, they're better. Well, yeah, of course. But you act like the fighter who's a newcomer has never taken a punch before. Like, come on. I mean, the Chiefs know what they're doing when they go get a guy like Xavier Worthy. They traded up to get him because they knew someone else wanted him as well. Yeah, Terrence, I'm with you. Those three together, and unfortunately, that's going to be put off. It's delayed right now. But when we do get that trio together, good luck. Even with Rice and Worthy, and with Kelce as your tight end, Pacheco as your running back, good luck, because you can't double team all of those guys right there. You can't double team Kelce, can't double team Rice and Worthy. You're going to have to pick your battles on this one. You're going to have to pick your poison. So, again, I like what I saw from this Chiefs offense. I needed to see that exact thing. I would have loved to see a touchdown with that starting unit, but not the worst thing at the end of the day, because I trust that those sevens are going to be there rather than more threes. For sure. I have no doubt about it. But, man, good luck, because I got what I needed to see from the starting unit, because I know they're not going to play in that Thursday game. Worthy, maybe a few snaps, maybe. I don't know. But generally speaking, Andy Reid does not play the starters in the third preseason game. Yeah, Cordell Powell, this is a guy that's been around for a few years now. And I see Andy Reid talking. If he has anything important to say, we'll bring it up. He's glad Patrick Mahomes completed the behind the back pass. Yeah, great. Cordell Powell is a guy that's been around for a long time on this team, since 2021. Okay, not that long, but feels like a long time. But hasn't really done much. I think he was active for one regular season game last year, and that was his first regular season game ever. So this is somebody that has been around the team for a while, but hasn't really been given a chance to play. So this is someone that, he knows the offense, but he hasn't had an opportunity to really do much with it in a real game. And some of you guys, we're starting to see some overreactions over a loss here. And keep in mind, the players responsible for wins and losses are guys that a majority of them are not going to be playing in September. Keep that in mind. Here's where I would be upset. Remember when the NFL used to have 4 preseason games? The fourth game, you would either play the starters like a couple of snaps and they would come off the field mid-drive, or you would just not play them at all. I remember Todd Haley, I think it was his first preseason game with the Chiefs. I'm sure it's on NFL Plus. I actually want to look it up now that I bring this up. He had the starters playing into the fourth quarter of the fourth preseason game against the Green Bay Packers. And all of those Packers players, maybe one or two of them, didn't make the team. Yet their fourth string defense was shutting down the Chiefs' first string offense. Do you guys remember that long ago? Like, if something like that was going on, that's, where, we should be upset and would need to have a serious discussion. I mean, relax. The wins and losses don't count here. I'll always say this. The year the Lions went 0-16, it just so happens as a coincidence because the Chiefs just played the Lions. The year the Lions went 0-16 was the same year they went 4-0 in the preseason. So let's remember that, folks. I mean, I don't know about third string, fourth string QB stinks. I mean, I like Oladokun. I mean, I don't think he's, ready to be the starter or anything like that. But for a practice squad QB, yeah, I like what he's done so far. Ian Book just looks, he just looked lost. Couldn't even get a good grip of the football. That's what was pretty disappointing. Yeah, we haven't talked about this guy yet, Charlie. I'm glad you brought this up. Justin Ross. He's saying Powell and Ross over Tony and Moore. I'm not saying no to that. But Justin Ross, I know he had a catch that was out of bounds, but still on a good play there. Now the Chiefs need to figure out a way to make sure that's happening inbounds, and he was very close. I mean, his can't remember if it was his right foot or his left foot. I think it was his right foot, just barely out of bounds. But we've been hearing about Justin Ross for a very long time, and this is somebody that I think that the Chiefs, you've heard the hype for a long time, and they want to see what he can do. So, would not surprise me if Justin Ross is once again on the 53-man roster for sure. Obviously, his rookie year, injured, unable to even have a rookie season. So, hopefully, he's a part of this team because I think he can provide good depth, and if he can live up to the hype, yeah, he might be able to really help this Chiefs offense moving forward, especially when Hollywood Brown returns. Red Kingdom says Rice to the Cowboys for CD. I mean, I think you got to give up more than just Rice. And if you're going to give up someone to get CD Lamb, and you're going to be giving up a lot to do so, you need to sign CD Lamb to a deal right away then, which is not easy to do because right now you're trying to figure out how to extend Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith, which we've gone over many times, is not going to be very easy to do. Nick Jones, yeah. Well, hold on. Which let me just make sure because there are a couple of Joneses. Cam Jones, obviously not him. He had a really rough outing, especially in the first half with that touchdown he allowed. But yeah, you're referring to the guy the Chiefs drafted last year. Why am I not seeing him on the depth chart here? That's interesting. Oh, yeah. Nick Jones, a defensive back. Yeah. Cam Jones up front. Yeah. I mean, I think the Chiefs could definitely use him for sure. Yeah. Running back positions, Matthew, it's kind of a weird one right now because behind Isaiah Pacheco, it is wide open. Although Carson Steele played a lot, didn't necessarily have the biggest game. So I think he's gonna make the team for sure. Behind him, maybe Deneric Prince. I don't know. Do you guys think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is making the team this year? Because I want to say no, but I feel like the Chiefs just want to keep him around. So I don't know. Charlie says Felix, the K-State Cat, will have a better year this season. I actually thought Felix, I thought he had a better game today than last week. And again, this is your first round draft pick who right now is low on the depth chart because the Chiefs do have some good defensive ends right now, albeit worth noting that Charles Omenihu not going to be on the 53 to start off. He's probably going to be on the on the PUP or IR to start things off here. But with Felix Anudike-Uzomah, he went out there, deflected a pass, had a couple of nice pass rushes as well, was getting around offensive tackles, trying to pressure the Lions QBs in this game. So I actually like what I saw from FAU in this game. We're still kind of waiting for him to stand out and look like a first-round pick, but today was a step in the right direction for sure. Nick's asking, do I think Cornell Powell will ever be a starter right now? I mean, I know you're not asking right now. Do I think he'll ever be a starter? I mean, he has not had an opportunity to really show himself. If you're going to start on this team, something would have to go terribly wrong. I mean, you would have a major injury bug running around the wide receiver room if that were to happen. He's been a work in progress. He, like I said earlier, this is someone who has not even really played much in the regular season. He made his regular season debut just last year for the first time, and he was drafted in 2021. A lot of people saying Tony needs to go. Serena says, if Patrick Mahomes goes down, I worry our whole season will be done. Our backup QBs include Wentz. Worry me. Yeah, I saw you were comment earlier, Serena, about the concerns with the backup quarterbacks. Listen, I think Carson Wentz, look, I know Carson Wentz is not the same quarterback. He's obviously turned into a journeyman in the NFL, but he is playing in an offense that he's very familiar with. What Doug Peterson ran in Philly is very similar to what the Chiefs run right now. For obvious reasons, Doug Peterson has been under the Andy Reid tree for a very long time. They worked together in Philadelphia before Andy Reid was let go, and they worked together in Kansas City up until, 2015, when Doug Peterson received the play calling duties, excelled at it. Chiefs went on a very long winning streak, and that led him to getting the head coaching job in Philadelphia, now eventually in Jacksonville, won a Super Bowl in Philly. I know Wentz was not there for that postseason. He got hurt, but he knows the offense. So obviously it's not ideal at all to see that scenario. But if the Chiefs are in that scenario, I think there's still at least some comfort there. Listen, I said this many times. Injuries are not an excuse. Every team deals with injuries. Now, some more than others, but didn't we see two teams last year prove that injuries are not an excuse, even at the quarterback position? Look at the Browns. They went through a carousel of quarterbacks last year. Eventually, they got Joe Flacco, who was literally not even playing, was at home taking his kids to school, and he gets a call from the Cleveland Browns. And he did quite well. Obviously, ended up winning Comeback Player of the Year. And I agreed with him winning that award. The Bengals in that same division, they lose Joe Burrow, and everybody, even Bengals fans, thought their season was over. And then Browning goes in there and plays very well. Actually had a 3-game winning streak at one point where they were scoring, 31 points per game. And I know they didn't make the playoffs, but they still finished above 500 in a very tough division. So at the end of the day, injuries are not an excuse. And I think the Bengals and the Browns proved that last year. If I'm not mistaken, Lions played no starters, Teresa. Yeah, the Lions definitely rested their starters. I'm seeing a lot more. Man, listen, I know, like in years past, when you look at someone like a player or a coach that gets a lot of criticism, I know Bob Sutton got a lot of criticism from the entire fan base. Dan Sorensen, last year, Connor Embry, and the receivers. This year, like already, Kadarius Toney he has the lead for most criticisms that he's receiving. Because here's the thing, like Patrick Mahomes, if you guys remember, the last time you saw Kadarius Toney play in a Chiefs game, when was it? It was in Foxborough. The Chiefs won that game by 10. But Kadarius Toney, what happened? Mahomes threw it right in his hands, and it goes off of his own hands, deflected for an interception. And Mahomes didn't go up to Rice, say anything to him. But if you just, pay attention to body language, which, if you have a brain, if you're a human, you know how humans react in certain situations. Man, he was not very happy, and he just kind of, let it out to his coach. They didn't lash out at him because his coach didn't do anything wrong, but he was just like, man, this needs to stop. And the Kadarius Toney errors are continuing. That's my biggest takeaway from today is if you keep Kadarius Toney, which I don't really know what's going to happen. I really don't. I think the Chiefs are going to give him one more. I'm telling you right now, next Thursday's game, that is a huge day for Kadarius Toney. That is Kadarius Toney's Super Bowl. I'm telling you that right now. If Kadarius Toney wants a career in the NFL and wants teams to trust him and believe in him, he needs to go off in that game. And if he makes another boneheaded move like that, I think he's done, at least with the Chiefs. I'm sure there's another team out there that will give him an opportunity. I mean, surely the Patriots or the Panthers would absolutely do it. But in Kansas City, I think you're gone. Like Kansas City's trying to three-peat. They want to win another Super Bowl. They're not going to do it if Kadarius Toney makes a crucial error late in a playoff game. They're just not. They're not. I do want to spend a moment talking about Matt Araiza because I thought he was another positive in today's game. So Matt Araiza in today's game, he had 6 punts. The first 2 each went for 61 yards. He had a 37-yard punt, a 41-yard punt, and a 42-yard punt. I'll get to the sixth punt in a moment, but those first 5 punts of 61, 61, 37, 41, and 42, they were all inside Detroit's 15. In fact, they were actually inside Detroit's 12. 3 of them were inside Detroit's 10. So in those 5 punts, or actually 6 punts altogether, he averaged 49.2 yards per punt. The last punt, right from his own, deep in his own end zone, kicked it 53 yards. In fact, he was the player who finally brought an end to that play because no one from the special teams defense could tackle that punt returner down. That was pretty frustrating. When your punter has to save the day, that's not a good thing. But that's the kind of player Matt Araiza is. So I was actually pretty pleased with what he did. And again, I know we don't talk about punters in great length. I feel like the last time anyone ever spent so much time talking about punting, at least in Kansas City, was when Dustin Colquitt criticized Tommy Townsend. Other than that, like, do we ever talk about the punter in Kansas City, even before the Patrick Mahomes era? Maybe the last time was when we would just say that Dustin Colquitt was the MVP of the team in 2009. That's it. But I like what I saw from Matt Araiza. And this is important because let's say you have a 3-and-out in your own red zone. Let's just go there. If Matt Araiza can go out there and get a 61, 65, maybe even a 70-yard punt, and I believe he had a 70-yard punt with the Bills when he was briefly with them, that's huge for your defense. Because then, the defense has some pressure off their shoulders, not feeling like they're going to give up points anyway, regardless, because just with the positioning that the offense was being gifted, the opposing offense, that is. So I'm pretty pleased with what I saw from Matt Araiza. Hopefully the Chiefs don't have too many of those bad drives where they're backed up in their own end zone. But hey, even the best offenses have that happen from time to time. So it's going to happen. And that's when Matt Araiza, he brings all that value to your team. So, and that really helps the defense big time. Deneric Prince and Carson Steele look good. Steele not as good as last week. Yeah, last week was a better week on offense. He had a nice return on special teams. Which kind of surprised me, a guy that size on going out there on special teams as a return specialist, that is. My mom and I call him Kadarius Kadarius Phony. That's where we're going now. I've never seen Mahomes get mad the way he did last year. Yeah. And again, like that moment with the referees, like, listen, I think complaining about officiating is just a sore loser move. But I think part of it was like, instead of lashing out at at his own receivers, let's just lash out at this referee. Again, I don't agree with it, but I'd rather have my players go off on the referee than go off on your own players. Now I'll say this. I'm sure Patrick Mahomes, Matt Nagy, Travis Kelce, like I'm sure they've all had serious, very difficult discussions with these receivers behind closed doors. And Kelce included, and Kelce even said on his podcast, he was a liability in some games with the drops. Yeah, a lot of people like Cornell Powell. So the takeaway I'm getting from you guys today is Cornell Powell certainly earned some favoritism from the fans. Meanwhile, Kadarius Toney, I mean, he might be shown the front door. I mean, if you thought Patrick, what was more impressive today? The behind the back pass by Patrick Mahomes, or Kadarius Toney committing 2 penalties in one snap? As much as I love that behind the back pass, I was honestly surprised by the 2 penalties in one snap. I was more impressed with that. I mean, come on, like that is impressive. Chase is asking, what about our rugby player? Where does he fit in? You're obviously asking about Luis Rees-Zammit. I liked what he did on the kickoff there. Also went out there in pass protection, picking up a block. So he actually looked good. He actually has struggled with pass blocking in the in practices this year. So to see him to go out there and pick up that blitz right there was good to see. And last week he had a good special teams tackle on defense with the punting unit. The kickoff he had, I mean, I could not tell a difference between him and Harrison Butker. So, and here's the other thing too, because of his rugby background, I'd rather it be him or Justin Reed doing kickoffs than Harrison Butker. Why? Like if they have a good kick return and your last line of defense is Harrison Butker is not winning that battle. Not because I think Harrison Butker is terrible. He's a great kicker, but kickers are not tacklers. That's just, I mean, they have a physical disadvantage there. And with Justin Reed hurt right now, and we don't know exactly when he's going to come back, it's expected he'll be ready for September the 5th. But for kickoffs, yeah, I have no problems with Louis Rees-Zammit being out there because he already had one tackle so far on such team and barely was able to get a hand on the returner, but enough to bring him down. And if he's out there with his background on kick returns for defense, yeah, I like that. I like that call for sure. Oh, look at you, Donnie, trying to stir the pot. The KCK Chiefs. As if we didn't have a heated discussion about that on the Red Friday live chat last night. Andy Reid mentioned about LRZ always wanting to learn and work hard. Yeah, and that's what you want from a guy who's a great athlete like him. Obviously, making that transition, nothing easy about that. Oh, what's going on, Max? Yeah, I met Max a couple of days ago. Yeah, good to meet you, Max. Always good to run into followers out and about. We're going to lose a preseason bowl. The preseason bowl. I've never heard that before. The preseason bowl. Could you imagine if they actually had like a preseason? Like, okay, the two best teams for the preseason, you play one more preseason, everyone else gets a bye week. Oh, that's funny. Andrew says, which wide receivers make the team is, I think, what you meant to say. Okay, so I'm going to go with 7 because that's what they had last year. And I'll say right, I think Hollywood Brown will be on the 53 because he's only going to be inactive for 1, possibly 2 games. So I'll put Hollywood on the 53. So there's 1. Worthy, Rice, Remigio. I like what I'm seeing from him. I know Mecole Hardman hasn't done anything, but I think he's still going to be a part of the team. So that's 5. I'm not putting Sky Moore. I'm not putting Kadarius Toney. I want to put Kadarius Toney, but I don't know anymore. I don't think he's worth the headache. I'll put Cornell Powell out there and Justin Ross. Oh, but what about Justin Watson? I could see Justin Watson making it over Cornell Powell, but I could see the Chiefs putting Cornell Powell back on the practice squad again, for sure. If they decided to put Worthy on IR, which I don't think they will, but if they did, then I could see room for Powell to make the 53. So one more time, my 7 guys are Worthy, Brown, Rice, Justin Watson, Mecole Hardman. That's 5. Nico Remigio and Justin Ross. I think those are your 7 receivers. I think Sky Moore, like, what's the point? Just, I know he was a 2nd-round pick, but just take your loss with him. Kadarius Toney, I don't think this guy's not worth the headache anymore. He's not. Cordell Powell and Montreal Washington are going to be good guys to put on your practice squad. We haven't seen Kyle Sheets. This is a guy that had a solid career in college, but playing at a much smaller level. So we'll see if he gets an opportunity in that 3rd preseason game next week. So yeah, those are my 7 guys. Yeah, a lot of people in the comments saying they would rather have Ross over Toney. Let's not give up on Rice. Stephanie says, "Is anyone giving up on Rice?" I don't know. I don't think anyone's. I haven't seen that. I mean, he's going to get suspended. When that suspension's coming, we don't know. Probably not going to be this year. Probably going to be next year. Alicio, hope I said your name right. No, Rice is amazing. Let's not do that. Give him Toney. Oh, this is in response. Okay, this is in response to the comment about trading Rice for CeeDee Lamb. Yeah, I mean, look, guys, the Chiefs are not getting CeeDee Lamb. No, that's not happening. I would love for it to happen, but I think you're going to be giving up a lot to make that happen. Oh, God. Dalton said, Kadarius and Moore need to go. No one disagrees with that. We give them up and a couple picks. maybe even get CEH and get us CeeDee Lamb. Okay, no. Guys, let me just ask you realistically, because I know everyone wants to get something for a player, okay? The Chiefs were able to get a 7th-round pick for Amir Smith-Marset. But let's be real here. Would any of you guys want to see the Chiefs give up a 7th-round pick for someone of Kadarius Toney's caliber or Sky Moore's skill set, if you can even call it a skill set, or someone like Clyde Edwards-Helaire? I would not want that. I know the Chiefs have been willing to give opportunities to first-round picks that haven't done well, like Kadarius Toney. There was also a cornerback who I think the Giants drafted, not Eli Apple. Or I can't remember if Eli Apple, Eli Apple was drafted by the Giants. I can't remember if it was the Giants or Bengals. I think it was the Giants, and then he went to Cincinnati. But there was a quarterback who the Chiefs gave an opportunity to, and I don't remember who it was. Mike something. But anyway, you're not going to see the Chiefs get anything out of Toney or Moore. And if they do, I will gladly come here and admit I was wrong. Yes, Teresa gets it. We are not getting CeeDee Lamb. I mean, listen, look, the Cowboys, they're not a Super Bowl contending team, but they're kind of on the cusp if they can get their shit together in the playoffs. So a team like that is not giving up CeeDee Lamb. You know who gives up a player like CeeDee Lamb or at least a good player? The Patriots. They just gave up their best player, Matthew Judon. Want to know why? Because they're not contending for anything other than the number 1 pick in the draft. That's all they're contending for. I almost blocked this comment here. I don't want to do that. Teresa says I want Wentz to be good, but worries me a bit. Yeah, I can understand that. Look, the thing I will say is Wentz is playing with other guys that might not make the team either. Keep that in mind. And if they do make the team, they're not going to be playing much. If Wentz were to play with the starters, I mean, listen, he got to play with Xavier Worthy. Now, do I think Chris Oladokun or Ian Book would have hit Xavier Worthy on that open play right there? I don't know. I think Oladokun might have. Book, I'm a little worried about. Every quarterback, if you're practicing without a defense, if it's offense only, they're hitting that. But when there is a defense present, things change. And there's a reason why those guys are third and fourth string QBs. Thank you, Lena. I appreciate that. Once will be fine. Give him time to acclimate, Robert says. Yeah, especially an offense that he does know, for sure. Charlie says, can we cut Toney and pick up Juju on the Chiefs? Listen, I mean, I don't mind that. So now Juju is available in free agency, and I think you're aware of that, Charlie. So they don't have to trade for him. But I guess if that's the swap you want to make in free agency, sure. I would not be opposed at all. Listen, who would you rather have? Juju or Toney? Juju or Sky Moore? And I know Juju did not make the Patriots team. Hell, he got cut way before the deadline. But again, a change of scenery, coming back to a team you want a Super Bowl with, I think can certainly be beneficial in some manner. But man, I mean, I kind of forgot about Juju. I would much rather have Juju Smith-Schuster than Kadarius Toney. 1,000%. Teresa says, who is taking Snead's spot and when will Justin Reed return? Reed's dealing with a lower leg injury. And we kind of talk about Reed. I know I'm just coming across your comment now. So we've already addressed the Justin Reed part. As far as Snead, that's kind of wide open right now. And the Chiefs haven't really shown much at the cornerback position so far in these 2 games as to who could be that right standout guy who fills in for Snead. Obviously, Trent McDuffie, he's going to continue to do his thing, but we don't really know opposite of him who it's going to be. So, there's it's a valid question for sure. Ariza will definitely be a positive for Casey. He was phenomenal at San Diego State. Lindsay, and even in the short time he was with Buffalo, it got a lot of attention. I mean, there's a reason why he's called the punt god. Better yet, the Bills dropped him and the Chiefs capitalized. Okay, this is getting off topic, but I have to say it anyway. What is with Buffalo fans? Because I'm getting tweets from Buffalo fans. Oh, what if Mahomes was on the Chiefs and Mahomes was on the Bills and Josh Allen was on the Chiefs? Or what if the Bills had the Chiefs coaching staff and the Chiefs had the Bills coaching staff? Who would win Super Bowls? I don't know. I've never really been a big fan of playing pretend football or hypothetical football. I mean, this is essentially fantasy football or Madden, I guess. But man, like, people love to say, well, if Mahomes had a different coaching staff, if he didn't have Andy Reid, well, that's not the case. He has Andy Reid. That's his coach. That's how teams win championship. Do you think if Tom Brady was drafted 200th overall instead of 199, and I don't know who had the number 200 pick in that draft, do you think Tom Brady would have the same career if he started his career with someone other than Belichick and Weiss as his offensive coordinator? Hell no. Yeah, coaching plays a role. And I know Brady went on to win a championship without Belichick, and the Patriots were garbage without Brady. But to start off, I think Brady absolutely needed Belichick in that early run. I think they both helped each other for sure. But I love the discussion like, oh, Mahomes is thriving because of Reid. Well, that's funny because before that, it was because he had Tyreek Hill. And now that he's winning Super Bowls without Tyreek Hill, people are looking for another reason as to why Mahomes is succeeding. As if people forgot, this guy was a first-round pick and succeeded at Texas Tech. Oh, by the way, a Texas Tech team that had no defense at all. But, you know, you guys are Bills fans are the football experts. They know way more than anyone else. So John says it's a preseason. Nothing really. This stuff is for coaches. See and understanding the playbooks. Yeah. I agree with you 100%. The games don't count, but they do matter. A lot of it is really for the non-starters. Who are your 22 backups going to be, and who's going to complete the rest of the roster, and who do you want sticking around on your practice squad? The only time it matters with the starters is if you have rookies or anyone competing for a starting spot, such as Xavier Worthy and Kingsley Suamataia. I think this preseason is a little more important for the Chiefs starting offense because you essentially have a new look on offense, a new left tackle, which is a very important position, especially when you have a franchise quarterback, and you have two new receivers. Obviously, we haven't seen much of Hollywood Brown. We literally saw just one snap from Hollywood. So, it was important today to see Rashee Rice coming off a rookie season and now being a returning player show us something, which he did today. It was important to see Xavier Worthy show us something, which, again, he did today. So that was good to see for sure. Yeah, I think Nico Remigio makes a 53, Dalton. I think the odd man out would be Powell. I think he's on the practice squad. So that's what that wide receiver room would look like. I would be very shocked if both Moore and or Tony made the team at this point. And I've seen some people say that they're going to keep Sky Moore because he's on a rookie deal. Guys, as bad as the Chiefs cap situation is right now, well, I shouldn't say it's bad, but it's kind of rough because you keep drafting great players and you have these great problems that other teams would love to have. You keep drafting great players and it's impossible to keep all of them. But they're not going to keep Sky Moore just because he's on a rookie deal and he's cheap to keep around. That's not what the Chiefs are about right now. The Chiefs are seriously trying to win a championship. They're literally, people believe they've got a legitimate shot to three-peat. And the only reason anyone's pushing back on their chances of three-peating is it's never happened before. It's impossible to do. If that's the only reason you're giving other than the product on the field, then you're not giving us a valid reason as to why the Chiefs won't three-peat. So deep down inside in everyone's mind, people know that the Chiefs have a serious chance at being able to pull this off and do something that's never been done. So I don't think they're in the business of keeping Sky Moore because he's cheap on a rookie deal. They've got to make sure they have the right 7 receivers out there because after last year, which, yeah, you still won a Super Bowl, but let me ask you guys this, because I know last year they won the Super Bowl the way they did. Do you trust that they can do it a second year in a row with that style of offense? Absolutely not. That's why they went and signed Hollywood Brown. That's why they traded up and drafted Xavier Worthy. That's why Marquez Valdes-Scantling's gone. And this could be why both Sky Moore and KT are going to be gone soon. Yeah, a lot of you guys are saying you would even take a guy like Juju over Sky Moore and Tony. Yeah. And listen, I'm not entertaining any idea of bringing Juju back right now. I don't think that is like something urgent that's necessary to happen, though I'm not opposed to it because he does know the offense and he had some success when he was here. So if he's a guy that's here for depth purposes, I would love that actually. But I just don't see the Chiefs really going in that direction. Yeah, Buffalo fans are interesting, man. It's like, you know, you're not. I get it. Like I saw a Bills fan today bragging about how Josh Allen has like the most completions and the most yards when he's right on the sidelines or yard away from the sidelines. It's like, man, are we really dropping a banner for that stat in Buffalo? Like, are people gonna crowd the streets of Buffalo for that kind of Super Bowl? Yeah, Charlie says the best. I mean, 4 straight Super Bowls, man, that'll do something to that fan base, especially now when they think they've. Because I remember, what was it, 2022, the first year without Tyreek Hill. All I heard all year long was how invincible the Bills looked with their team, the best roster of any NFL team. Well, they laid a big egg against the Cincinnati Bengals. Josh Allen is 0-4 against Burrow and Mahomes combined in the playoffs. And listen, I think Allen's great. He's got to seriously take care of those turnovers, but you're not going very far until you take care of those turnovers. And as a matter of fact, I'll say this right now. They made a mistake keeping Sean McDermott. That guy should have been gone. You have a ceiling with that football team. If they're not improving on the turnovers, that's a coaching issue. And if you keep falling short year after year after year, well, then maybe it's time for a coaching change. Generally speaking, you shouldn't fire a coach when you keep making the playoffs, but when you have the constant ceiling and can't get over certain humps, you got to make a change. And I think it's a big win for teams like the Chiefs, the Texans, the Ravens, the Bengals, teams that are going to contend for the AFC title. The Bills, I don't think are going to be that team. I just don't. Yeah, they did some things last year. What did it turn into in the playoffs? They beat up a Steelers team that was banged up. Not really that impressive. They lose to the Chiefs at home. Because what did we hear last year? Oh, we finally got Mahomes in Buffalo with a crowd. Because the first and only time Mahomes ever won in Buffalo was during the pandemic without a crowd. But Mahomes took a big dump on that narrative. The Chiefs are winning Super Bowls, whereas the Bills are breaking tables. Yeah, that is true. That is true, Matthew, for sure. Okay, so no calls today, which is fine. It's a preseason. And I think we've kind of gone over what we needed to go over from this preseason game. Again, my biggest takeaway as far as positives go, I mentioned LRZ. I thought he looked good on special teams today. And I liked on offense. He didn't play much, but had that nice blitz pickup there. And also the kickoff. Yeah, that looked really good. Matt Araiza looked really good. And by the way, give a big props to Noah Gray because he filled in for James Winchester, who dealt with a shoulder injury, which, by the way, I don't know what is up with the Chiefs and shoulders recently. Not been a good marriage with shoulders in the Chiefs, but was able to come back. But before Winchester came back after halftime, Noah Gray went in there and went in there for one of the field goals as a long snapper and also for one of the punts as a long snapper. Listen, generally speaking, for those kinds of things, you don't expect backups to come in. In fact, I think this might be the first time James Winchester has ever suffered an injury. So thankfully, it wasn't anything serious and he was able to come back. But props to Noah Gray for filling in. Next man up. That's always been the thing with this team. Willie Gay, a great run stopper, not available in the AFC Championship game last year against the number one rushing offense. No problem. Chiefs found a way defensively to step it up there. What about when Joe Thuney went down? Arguably the best interior offensive lineman in the NFL today. Well, you had a guy in Nick Allegretti who went out there, filled in, and stepped up. This is the same Nick Allegretti who really was one of many offensive linemen who struggled in the Super Bowl against the Bucs. And a couple of years later, he gets a chance to make up for that. And man, he stepped up in last year's Super Bowl. And obviously he's moved on now. So that's good to see. I'm glad sorry, I'm just sidetracked looking at Twitter here. Just seeing what's being tweeted out there. I'm glad to see that from Nick Allegretti after the struggle he had in Super Bowl 55. And then the Chiefs offense today, the starting unit looked good. The only thing that was missing was the cherry on top, a touchdown with the starting unit. But we got that from Xavier Worthy, and I'm good with that. I was kind of hoping they would let Mahomes come back one more time because they had the short field to work with. I mean, I get it. You don't want to risk anything, but it looked really good. I love it. I'm excited. This is going to be the last time you see Mahomes until September the 5th. So this is a unit, man. Mahomes, Kelsey, Rice, and Worthy, and Pacheco. Those 5 guys, they're going to be a very important part of your offense going into September the 5th. Hollywood Brown, I don't want to write him off completely. We just don't know his status for that game. I say there's a 90% chance he does not play in that one. As much as I hate to say it, because what was my prediction? I said he would score the first touchdown of the year for the Chiefs. And unfortunately, that's not going to be the case. But I think for a short period of time, who you have on offense, I think they can get the job done. Yeah, it's going to be 2 tough games against the Ravens and the Bengals, the 2 teams that you have faced in the 3 most recent AFC Championship games. So there's going to be nothing easy about those 2 games coming up. So, yeah, I'm excited to see Hollywood Brown when he comes back. But before then, I still think the Chiefs have what it takes to get it done with the 2 receivers they have active at the moment. And I think they're going to have good depth to go with it this year. I'm excited to see it. All right, that'll do it for this episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast. My name is Farzin Vousoughian. Had a lot of live streams and podcasts for you guys in the last few days. So check them out if you haven't done so already. The Brodie Croyle interview from Thursday night's podcast. Great conversation with Brodie Croyle. Please check that out if you haven't already. I'll give you guys a little, you know what? Let me just give you guys a little teaser here. I don't normally do this because I don't like to say anything until we have it officially booked, but we do have something booked. We have another former Chiefs quarterback scheduled to come on the podcast next week. When exactly and who exactly, that you guys are going to have to wait and see, but I'll announce it when we have it booked, and we will have it live for you guys. So make sure you have the notifications, all that stuff turned on. That way you do not miss anything. So tune in for that. I'm excited. What did I say, by the way? Beginning of the year, I said I'm not one for New Year's resolutions, but I did have one goal. I wanted to talk to 10 former Chiefs on this podcast. Who do we have? We had our first one was Mike DeVito. That was a fun one. We brought back Jason Dunn on the podcast. He was fun to talk to. Who else? We had Deron Cherry recently. We had Brodie Croyle recently. Couple more. I'm trying to recall who they are. JJ Burton. That was a fun one. Never had an opportunity to talk to JJ before, so that was a good conversation. And there's a 6th one. Nick Lowry. Yes, Chiefs Hall of Famer Nick Lowry. So we're at 6. I'm hitting 10, guys. I think we're going to hit more than 10 too, because we may or may not have more things lined up for you guys. But that's later. By the way, I see a couple of you guys, saying who to get and who and all that stuff. All I can do is reach out. Some of them respond. There's actually one former Chief, I won't say who it is, was really wanting him to come on. But he says he doesn't like to do interviews and doesn't like to talk about the past anymore because he just wants it to be in the past. Understand it. You can't ever force anyone to come on a podcast or to talk about things they don't want to talk about. So sometimes you just got to let things be the way they are. But nonetheless, I appreciated their response, and we talked for a little bit. But if you guys want someone to come on, please let me know, and don't be afraid to tag them on social media. Let them know about it, because sometimes their managers let's just say their managers are not the easiest to communicate with. But if the players find out through you guys, sometimes they're willing to do it because of that. That can help out sometimes. Hey, I see all you guys in the comments. Teresa, Charlie, Matthew, Teresa, Matthew, a couple of Matthews here, actually. Hey, appreciate you guys, the kind words to wrap things up here. We actually had Christian Okoye last November, but that was in 2023. So bringing him back again would be really cool. All right, guys, my name is Farzin Vousoughian. I am out of here. Subscribe. Let a friend know about the podcast. I'm out. Enjoy.